Welcome, one and all. I'm glad you have joined in today's worship service. I'm Sherry Woodbury, the settled minister here at First Unitarian Church of Omaha. Earlier this month, First Unitarian returned temporarily to gathering online only on Sundays. We were mindful of the Omicron surge, which appears to perhaps now have peaked. This temporary closure is also because of an exciting upgrade we have been making in our beautiful sanctuary to improve our streaming technology. My hope is that we will be reopening the sanctuary and returning to multi-platform worship soon. A special welcome to visitors who are joining us this morning. The community you have come to is one of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and racial and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community.
And I am Reverend Mary Moore, the targeted minister at Second Unitarian Church of Omaha. This service had its origins with the members of the Joint Committee of First and Second Unitarian Churches, which is working to support Afghan refugees in Omaha. We bid you welcome, whoever you are, whatever your background, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey.
Each week, we also acknowledge that where we meet for worship is the land of the Omaha Oto Nations, and that Indigenous people in the greater community have become marginalized and made invisible. May we recognize their presence among us and work with them to resolve the issues of poverty, displaced children, and murdered and missing Indigenous women, the MMIW. And now, as we enter more fully into worship, Barb Herring will light our chalice. We're pulling up a video to show you that right now.
Our chalice lighting this morning is from Andrea Hawkins Camper. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? If not now, when? This is the answering cry of justice with the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do, and this is the call we answer now. To be the barrier and the bridge, to be the living embodiment of our principles, to be about the work of the building the beloved community, to be a people of intention and a people of conscience. Our chalice lighting.
Thank you, Barb. Go right ahead, Ashley.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Ashley, and I'm the Director of Religious Education at Second Unitarian Church. I'm going to be sharing a story with you this morning. It's a very important story, but it's not just one story. And so I'd like to read a short author's note before I start. The journey is actually a story about many journeys, and it began with the story of two girls I met in a refugee center in Italy. After meeting them, I realized that behind their journey lay something very powerful. So I began collecting more stories of migration and interviewing many people from many different countries. I knew I wanted to create a book about these true stories. Almost every day on the news, we hear the terms migrants and refugees, but we rarely ever speak to or hear the personal journeys that they have had to take. This book is a collage of those personal journeys and the incredible strength of the people within them. I'm going to share my screen so that we can all see the pictures together. Sorry, everyone. The Journey by Francesca Sana. I live with my family in a city close to the sea. Every summer, we used to spend many weekends at the beach, but we never go there anymore because last year our lives changed forever. The war began. Every day, bad things started happening around us, and soon there was nothing but chaos. And one day, the war took my father. Since that day, everything has become darker, and my mother has become more and more worried. The other day, one of my mother's friends told her that many people are leaving. They're trying to escape to another country, a country far away with high mountains. What is this place? We ask our mother. It is a safe place, she tells us. And where is this place? We ask again. She shows us pictures of strange cities, strange forests, and strange animals until she finally sighs, "We will go there and not be frightened anymore." We don't want to leave, but our mother tells us it will be a great adventure. We put everything we have in suitcases and say goodbye to everyone we know. We leave at night to avoid being seen and keep moving for many days. The further we go, the more we leave behind. We finally arrive at the border. It is an enormous wall, and we must climb over it. But oh no, you are not allowed to cross the border. Go back, shouts an angry guard. We have nowhere to go, and we are very tired. In the darkness, the noises of the forest scare me, but Mother is with us, and she is never scared. We close our eyes and finally fall asleep. Shouting wakes us up. It's the guards, and they're looking for us, and we must hide. Quick, this way, whispers our mother. We run and run until a man we have never seen before appears. Mother gives him some money, and he takes us over the border. It is dark, and nobody sees us. Our journey is not over yet, our mother tells us. The sea stretches far and wide ahead of us, and we must cross it. How will this be possible? We have boarded a ferry with so many people. There's not much space, and it rains every day, but we tell each other stories, tales of terrible and dangerous monsters that hide beneath our boat, ready to gobble us up if the boat capsizes. The boat rocks and rocks as the waves grow bigger and bigger, and it feels like the sea will never end. We tell each other new stories, stories about the land we are heading to, where the big green forests are filled with kind fairies that dance and give us magic spells to end the war. As the sun rises, we see land for the first time in days. The boat rocks silently to shore. Our mother tells us we are very lucky to still be together. Is this the place where we will be safe? We ask. It is close, she says with a tired smile. We travel for more days and more nights, crossing many borders. From the train, I look up to the birds that seem to be following us. They are migrating just like us, and their journey is very long too, but they don't have to cross any borders. I hope one day, like these birds, we will find a new home, a home where we can be safe and begin our story again.
Thank you, Ashley, for that beautiful and heartbreaking in many ways story. I invite you all to join in singing our opening hymn, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, with thanks to First Unitarian Church of Baltimore for this rendition of the song.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell a story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
At this time, in our worship services at both First and Second Unitarian, we offer up to the universe those things that we bring with us this morning, joys that we can't wait to express, concerns that weigh heavy on our hearts, concerns that have touched us personally and are lifting us up or weighing us down. If we were in person at Second Unitarian, we'd invite you to come up to light a candle and speak of your joy or your concern, or to light a candle silently. But Zoom is too cumbersome to let us share our joys and concerns individually aloud. So this morning, we're going to harness the power of Zoom's chat to give everyone who wishes an opportunity to express what they might be carrying this morning. We've switched on the chat so that everyone can see what is being posted. But please be sure you are posting your message to everyone and not just to the host. If you wish, you can simply post, "I light a candle," without naming your joy or sorrow, your joy or concern, just as you would light a candle silently if we were in person. On this special morning of our having a joint service with both of our congregations, I will follow the custom of First Unitarian and read aloud something that was posted to the First Unitarian Joys and Concerns forum online. And then we will continue in the mode of Second Unitarian, where folks write their joys and concerns in the chat, while a lovely video is played, which features Second Unitarian's candles being lit. But joys and concerns will not be read aloud from the chat today. So, to begin, a joy was submitted yesterday to First Unitarian's Joys and Concerns forum by Gary Andrews. He wrote, "How about silent prayer for some people that escaped injury when a bridge in a park in Gary's hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, collapsed on Friday?" The chat is now open for receiving your joys and concerns. We offer thanks and blessings for all these expressions of joy and concern, and for all those unspoken but nevertheless real that reside in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. We hold you in love, knowing that we are connected to one another as a caring community.
Every week, both congregations take up an offering in support of our liberal religious values. For January, First Unitarian is supporting Restoring Dignity, an agency that serves refugee families in the Omaha area. Omaha has a very large population of resettled refugees from many different countries and language backgrounds, and the initial services from resettlement agencies do not provide the ongoing support that is needed. Restoring Dignity helps with the focus on education and advocacy. The Share the Plate recipient for Second Unitarian this month is the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha. This is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Members are not only women, but also men and non-binary people. The League believes in respect for individuals, the value of diversity, the empowerment of the grassroots, both within the League and in communities. Whichever congregation you are affiliated with, you'll see links to get more information and to donate online in the chat. And you can also see that information on your screen. I invite you to give with a generous heart as local refugee pictures are shared during the offertory song.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
Be kind to the new student, I have told my daughter when she announces that someone new is coming to her class. I know, she says. And it's not just because we've had this conversation before that she says, I know. It's because she has been the new student herself, and she remembers what it is like to have to learn a bunch of new names and faces all at once when everyone else seems to know each other already. To wonder and wait to see who will be nice and who will be mean. To learn how people do things in this community, this school, this classroom. How do they greet each other? What happens at lunchtime? What should I wear? Will anyone ask me to play with them at recess? Now when a new student is expected, my 6th grader tells me about it with happy anticipation. I might make a new friend, she reports. And I know that she will help them find their way around the classroom and settle in. As an adult, I try to offer the same warm, intentional welcome to new people who enter my circles. Kindness, compassion, the expansion of our own relationships. These are some of the unique, simple, obvious reasons to be a friend to someone new. For someone who is not simply moving across the state, but coming from another culture, perhaps leaving hardship behind, the transition to a new place must be even more challenging. Showing hospitality to the stranger is a strong cultural value in many parts of the world. For millennia of human habitation on Earth, being able to pick up and move somewhere new guaranteed people a certain degree of freedom. On our planet today, there are no uninhabited Edens. A refuge go, there will be other people. So if we want to keep alive the almost universal imperative to shelter the stranger, we must welcome to our own land the survivors of war, the seekers of economic opportunity, and the increasing numbers of climate refugees. No matter what they are fleeing, it must still be inherently difficult for people to uproot themselves from the lands and the lifeways they have known. We can look at those images of people arriving at the Omaha airport from another land, as we did during the offertory. But this moment in time at the airport does not capture the enormity of leaving one's home behind. Richard Blanco, himself a child of exiled parents, envisions the experience like this in his poem titled Imaginary Exile. Dawn breaks my window and dares me to write a poem, brave enough to imagine the last day I'll ever see this amber light color the wind, breathing life into the dark faces of these mountains I know by name. Risen from the bedrock of the only country I've truly lived, resting on the same earth as this house in which I'll never rise again. A poem that captures me making my bed one last time as the sun climbs the maples I'll never again watch burst like fireworks into fall, or undress themselves, slip into snow's white lace. Never again the spring giggles of my brook or creaks of my floor. Never the scent of my peonies or pillows. Never my eyes on my clouds or my ears to the rain on my rooftop in this country. A poem that finds a word for the emptiness of suddenly becoming a stranger in my own kitchen. As I sip my last cup of coffee, linger with the aroma of my last meal, my hands trembling as I toss leftovers, wash dishes, eat one last piece of bread I'll never break again, and cork a half-empty bottle of wine I'll never finish. A vintage I'll keep savoring, like memories through my mind's palette. A poem that lists which parts of me to part with or take. Give up my orchids and dog to my neighbor, Jewel, but keep our stares goodbye. Leave the china and crystal, but box the plastic souvenirs. Forget my books, but pack every letter and card I've saved. Not the gold chains that won't buy back my life, but stuff all the loose photos like crumbs in my pockets I'll need to survive. A poem that brings daisies for my mother, holds her as I swear I'll return to hold her again, though we both know I never will. That speaks with my father one last time at his grave and forgives his silence again forever. That hopes my husband can flee with me, knowing he can't. Our last gaze, a kiss, meaning more to us than our first, as I hold his hand and hand him my keys. a poem ending as I walk backwards away from his love at my door to open another. Step into some strange house and country to harden into a statue of myself. My eyes fixed and crumbling like the moon, and like the moon, live by borrowed light. Always, but never quite, dying in the sky. Never forgiving my fate in a poem I never want to write. Imaginary Exile, a poem by Richard Blanco. So many have come to this country from another after poignant partings like these. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, wrote poet Emma Lazarus on words adorning the Statue of Liberty. But for the new set of exiles arriving in Omaha now, this is more than an Ellis Island moment. These are not just any immigrants seeking a better life. Afghan families have left their homeland and come to this strange country because our foreign policy, our military action, our leaders' judgment, our people's will or lack of it has left their homeland in shambles. And especially for those who helped the US in its efforts in Afghanistan over the previous 2 decades of war, staying home would be not only desolate, but dangerous. We have the wonderful opportunity to be a friend to one of these families. I hope you will be as excited as I am about this and find some ways that you can take part. Whether we act out of kindness and compassion, to honor the dignity of our new neighbors, to enrich our own lives, maybe to get out of our own isolation by reaching out to others, or whether our motive is to help make amends for the harm caused by our country's post 9/11 wars. Whatever moves each one of us, we have the chance to be a friend to a new family here in Omaha. Let's hear more about this opportunity from the Afghan refugee team.
Imagine that you needed to leave the United States for your safety and go to another country. A country that is so different from the one that you know. You have to leave quickly, and you can only take one suitcase. What would you put in this suitcase? Clothes, of course, pictures, mementos, important papers. As you leave, and you start thinking about your future and that of your family, what would you feel? Fright, worry, despair, hope? Suppose you needed to leave some of your family behind. Your mother, your father, your brothers, your sister. If you can picture and feel these in your imagination, then you have some brief idea of what Afghan refugees must be going through when they enter this country. Many of these refugees feared persecution. The women feared they would not be able to work or study. The children feared they would not be able to continue their studies. These fears greatly outweighed the dread of coming to a new country and a new life. The only option for them was to leave the country of their birth. In taking on this project, we hope to alleviate these fears for at least one family and ease transition into a new life. This brief video hopefully will explain how we will do this.
Hello, my name is Joanne Draper, a volunteer leader for the Afghan Refugee Project from Second Unitarian Church. In early November, members of First and Second Unitarian Churches met and decided to explore co-sponsoring an Afghan refugee family through Lutheran Family Services of Nebraska. At that time, 4 of the attendees, 2 from First and 2 from Second, volunteered to act as the leadership team for this project. In early December, the leadership team met with Lutheran Family Services to express our interest in co-sponsoring a family and to discover what responsibilities would be involved with a co-sponsorship. The team took our information to the board from Second and to the ministry team council at First Church, and approval was given for the formation of the joint Afghan Refugee Project. This brief video introduces the leadership team and discusses what is involved with co-sponsoring an Afghan family.
Hi, I'm Barb Herring with First Unitarian Church of Omaha, and I'm one of the co-leaders of the Afghan Refugee Project. At the end of October of 2021, there was 53,000 Afghan evacuees living on 8 U.S. military installations. By early December, that number had decreased to 34,000. By mid-February 2022, all Afghan evacuees will be transitioned off of U.S. military installations. Lutheran Family Services is expected to resettle around 800 to 1,000 individual Afghans in the Omaha and Lincoln areas in 2022. These refugees arrive in the United States with very few possessions. As of late December, Lutheran Family Services had well over 30 Afghan refugee families in temporary housing, such as Airbnbs and extended stay hotels. The biggest challenge for Lutheran Family Services is finding affordable housing for the family. The main goal of Lutheran Family Services and its co-sponsors is to make the refugees self-reliant within 3 to 6 months. They must have permanent housing, have a paying job, know how to shop for necessities, and understand how to get around town.
Hello, my name is Michaela Weiss, and I'm from Second Unitarian Church, and I'm a volunteer leader with the Afghan Refugee Project. As co-sponsors, our work is to act as guides, friends, and advocates for our refugee family. The families that are coming in from Afghanistan can be anywhere from 1 to 12 individuals, but they're averaging about 6 per family. Now, as a guide, we're supplying furniture and household goods and food, and getting them acquainted with important aspects of American life and culture, and we're certain that they'll have lots of questions for us. As friends, we'll offer emotional support and encouragement as they make this adjustment, and we'll share in their cultural heritage, honoring their customs and traditions. So as they learn from us, we'll also be learning from them. Finally, as advocates, we'll help as best we can to make sure they're not taken advantage of, exploited, or discriminated against. We want to encourage and help them connect with other refugees for mutual support and network with other groups to foster multicultural communication and understanding. To achieve these goals, various steps must be taken, but most importantly, volunteers are very much needed.
Hello, my name is John Mangini, a volunteer for the Afghan Refugee Project from First Unitarian Church. One of the responsibilities of the co-sponsors is to help furnish and set up an apartment or house for the family that has been provided by Lutheran Family Services. Lutheran Family Services pays the rent for the housing, but counts on the co-sponsors to provide all the things necessary to make it a home. On the Afghan Resettlement Project webpage, we will list the specific items needed. We also list various long and short-term ways in which you can be involved, from donating money, gift cards, new or gently used furniture, and household items. One initial need is to help moving these items into our storage space. When housing becomes available, more volunteers will be needed to move all the collected items and help set up the family's new home.
Friendship and advocacy for the family begin the very first day they are met by the co-sponsors. After the family has settled into their new home, weekly meetings with the family will be arranged. Every family is different and will have specific needs. Our approach will be, we're here to help you. What do you need? They may need assistance in school enrollment for the children, learning how to navigate the bus system, driving family members to various places, grocery stores, medical appointments, to work, exploring Omaha, their new home. Lutheran Family Services provides training for these volunteer mentors. They also support volunteers through referral services for the family, English language classes, along with helping find employment. The mentoring group is a small group of volunteers who commits to working with a refugee family for at least 3 to 6 months, if not longer. Again, the goal is self-sufficiency for the family.
We are excited about this project and look forward to working with members of First and Second Unitarian Churches of Omaha. Spread the word to friends and families. They might have gently used furniture or household items that they'd be willing to donate. For updates on the project, or if you wish to volunteer or to make a donation, please visit the Afghan Refugee Project webpage on each of the church's websites. If you have questions, please email the leadership team at Afghan Refugee Project at firstuuomaha.org. We hope this short video has been informative and has helped you better understand the Afghan Refugee Project and what our commitment will be to our refugee family.
Now, some of us have some knowledge of families that are already here in Omaha. I have a good friend from another church who has been working with a family, and Donna Neff from First has also had some contact with the family. We'd like to share some of this information so you get a better sense of what these families have gone through, what their issues are now, and also how co-sponsors have been involved. My friend's family came here around about a week before Christmas, but they were not referred to co-sponsors until the beginning of January. This is a family of 8, a mom and dad and 6 children. The dad initially worked as a rickshaw driver in the town of Jalalabad, a city that's approximately 90 to 100 miles away from Kabul. When the US Army came in, he got a job with the Army detecting landmines. He speaks a little bit of English and has the equivalent of a 7th grade education. The mom is now pregnant with their 7th child. After she arrived from Afghanistan, she developed some health issues, mainly dehydration and issues with her pregnancy. The co-sponsors took her to the emergency room where she received some treatment. She is still ill and now is very homesick. She speaks no English and has no formal education. The children range in age from 4 to 15. There are 5 boys, and the youngest is a girl. The older boys speak some English, and they have had some formal education. They're very excited about being in Omaha. They kind of see it as an adventure. They will start school this week. Now, the trek the family made from Jalalabad to Omaha was quite extensive but from what I understand, not unusual. They left their city and went to Kabul and waited at the airport for a couple of days before they were transferred by plane to a base in the Arab Emirates. They stayed there for a while and then were sent over to, Spain, to another air base. In Spain, they stayed for at least a month before they were transferred to Virginia. And at Virginia, they received their vaccinations, their Social Security card, their work permit, etc. They stayed in Virginia for another couple of weeks before they came to Omaha. They were initially put up in temporary housing. The only outfits they came with was one change of clothes and one set of underwear. They had no coats, and their shoes were very worn and in disrepair. The co-sponsors took them to get new clothes and new shoes. They are now in permanent housing, a 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom rental. Because of the mother's illness, the father was the primary caretaker. But now that the kids will be going to school, he feels he can get a job. Like many refugees, they are very unfamiliar with things that we take for granted. As an example, the co-sponsors, when they first went to the house, one of the co-sponsors checked to see what the food situation was. She looked in all the cabinets, looked in the pantry, they were empty. She then opened the refrigerator and found it filled with unopened canned goods, cereal boxes, etc. Obviously, the family had no concept of what a refrigerator was. The co-sponsors now are helping the family furnish their new house. They take the father grocery shopping on a weekly basis, and they take the mother to any medical appointment she has. They also meet with the family about once a week to help them with their English, talk to them, and they even play games with the children. Donna Neff now will talk a little bit about her experience with the family here in Omaha.
Good morning. I kind of fell into this in that my good friend and longtime First UU member, Ellen Sherson, met a mother and a daughter, Afghan refugees, when they were temporarily housed in her Airbnb, her furnished Airbnb. And Ellen and I were busy planning and then canceling because of COVID, an auction event. So we were trying to find a time to meet. And Ellen said, well, I can't do it tomorrow because I'm taking these Afghan women shoe shopping to try to get some winter shoes. They don't have any winter shoes. And I said, gosh, could I come? I mean, would that be intrusive? And she said, no, come on along. So here we are at Kohl's. It's a mother about my age, an adult daughter. She's the one who was the English speaker and translator for all of us. I would say she's in her 20s. And then an unexpected third woman joined us, who was the 19-year-old granddaughter who had just arrived in Omaha with her family. This family was the brother, the son of the mother. So now we have a daughter and a son. And Hamid is married and has 4 children. And this 19-year-old was the oldest of those children. So here we are, 5 women shoe shopping in Kohl's. And I mostly wanted to convey what an interesting blending of the ordinary and the traumatic, the life of a refugee has. I mean, one of our goals was to find out even what are the American sizes for these shoes, and to convey that. And we had, the one English speaker. But soon nonverbal communication, you know, kicked in. We were holding up shoes we felt were sort of ridiculous. The 19-year-old was being distracted off from getting the winter shoes that were supposed to be bought to things that attracted her, and so forth. But at the end of our session, we've paid for the goods, and I would mention this family is not sponsored yet. They are now on their third temporary housing out of Ellen's B&B and into yet another apartment, and then now into a third one. And so, you know, they are sort of being helped just by personal connections right now, not through any fault of Lutheran Family Services. They're totally overwhelmed. And so we were about to say goodbye, and Ellen asked, "Where are you from?" And they said, "Herat." So in the modern world, Takufa gets out her smartphone, I get out my smartphone, Ellen gets out her smartphone, and we're dialing up maps of Afghanistan. And this kind of common, they show us where Herat is, and then, of course, you're on the phones. Now come photos of the families. So Takufa dials up a picture of Hamad and his family, and you know, Ellen dials up, you know, people she knows, and I'm dialing up people I know on my phone. And we're gathered around with only, you know, one person to share the English. And then I pointed to the mom, who had been so quiet during this whole time, hardly saying anything at all, just kind of silent and calm. And I pointed to her granddaughter, who's 19, and I said, you know, you and her. And then I pointed to myself, and then I pointed to my screensaver, which is my 9-month-old only granddaughter. And the mother just lit up, you know, and so we spent about 5 minutes looking at pictures of, you know, my 9-month-old doing various things and laughing. And Ellen was brokering the English about how do they count years, and, you know, in Afghan, are you 1 when you're born, or are you 0, and so forth. But I was just struck by the common ground that we all have as family members. And the next 2 days later, I'm watching, and the international news featured, you know, this terrible thing where a van crowded with family, 11 people, I think there were, you know, was blown up in Herat. And many people were killed. And I was now this personal connection, you know, to Herat, and wondering, gosh, you know, it's a town the size of Omaha, a little bigger, you know, I mean, can you imagine that happening, you know, in our hometown? But there's also hope, because the 19-year-old, her dream was that maybe she would get to go to Creighton. And, you know, that's a possibility, because her dad, Hamid, who's now has arrived in the city with his family, worked for a Jesuit organization in Herat that helped build and maintain schools out in rural areas around Herat for girls. And of course, that era is ending, or is certainly endangered. So I think there's hope there. I think there is hope. I think she might have this opportunity as well as the loss. And then I'd just like to close that at the moment, Ellen has 2 more Afghan refugees temporarily placed in her Airbnb, 2 men, adult men. And when she went over to meet them, one of them, she asked what he did in Afghanistan, and both are from the military, and he was a helicopter pilot. And so he was under tremendous danger to be immediately evacuated out of there. And she said, well, you know, are you family? Are you expecting family? And he teared up and he said, no, I hope so, but I had to leave so quickly, and there was only space for me. So I've left behind my wife and my almost 2-year-old daughter. And, you know, and I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, you get up every morning and you start a new day in Omaha. So I went from, it's my beagle, sorry. I went from just kind of being an interested party to wanting to be really involved in this effort. And I hope that we can all make Omaha a new home, that despite all the trauma, you know, that there's some hope and some smiles too as well. So thanks.
Such a wonderful video and good speakers from the joint 1st and 2nd Afghan Refugee Committee. And a whole website dedicated to this effort, linked to both churches' websites and continuously being updated. But is this effort going to succeed? When I first began as targeted minister at 2nd Unitarian 14 months ago, I saw how hard folks such as Sherry Cody and Monica and Kai worked, along with the whole congregation, to support an Hispanic immigrant family. But can this joint congregation effort to support refugee families work? Well, it turns out that there is a successful precedent for such a joint congregational effort between these two churches. Let us hear now a testimonial about this joint effort from 2nd Unitarian member Clyde Anderson as he shares the story of the work of 1st and 2nd Unitarian Joint Refugee Resettlement Committee back in the year 2000. Clyde?
Good morning. I'm Clyde Anderson, a member of the Social Justice Committee at 2nd Unitarian Church. During the fall of 2000, our Social Justice Committee partnered with 1st Unitarian Church to form a joint resettlement committee to adopt and resettle a family from a refugee camp from the war in Bosnia. The joint committee raised funds, sought donations of furniture and goods, and located an apartment. Our family arrived in Omaha on August 8th, 2000. Kosi Alai, the father, was a native of Togo, a Christian, and was a physician in Bosnia. Mariana Malovic, the mother, was a Muslim and a bookkeeper. With their 2-year-old son, Ariel, they were the honored guests at a welcoming reception held on August 11th. Members of the two congregations opened their hearts to Mariana, Kosi, and Ariel, helping them get settled, donating food, furniture, transportation, helping Kosi get employment, and inviting them to our community activities. Many members of 2nd Unitarian participated in this project under the dedicated leadership of Betty Siegel, Ruth Ann Irby, and Mary Bamsberger. Since the family didn't have a car, one of my tasks was to teach them how to use Omaha's bus transportation system. However, Kosi, once or twice a week, had to report for work at 4 a.m. before the bus system started running. And I would pick him up and take him to work near 72nd and Hickory. Eventually, the family was able to purchase a car for transportation. The family still resides in Omaha.
Maybe switch back so I can finish this segment? Spotlight me? Thank you. Thank you, Clyde. I have so enjoyed working on today's joint service with the so professional, dedicated joint Afghan refugee team, and especially with my colleague, Reverend Sherry. Now, some of the Afghan refugee families who have arrived in Omaha at this time may have come initially from their being sheltered at one of the 8 Army bases at Camp Atterbury in Indiana. They might already have been aided by a UU congregation in Columbus, Indiana, which is located near that Army base and which has had a large program of support for the Afghan refugee families sheltering there. Small world. Reverend Sherry and I both served that congregation several years ago. Reverend Sherry as an intern minister and myself as their interim minister. Okay, now let the two UU congregations in Omaha tag team with this Columbus, Indiana UU congregation and provide support for Afghan refugee family. It sometimes seems these days that so much is on hold, suspended, waiting until the pandemic is over, until the congregations can meet in person, until there is an orange or yellow level of community spread of COVID. But this refugee support effort is something both congregations can become involved with right now. You don't have to wait. We can, you can jump right in now and get active right away. And there is an entire website, as we heard, detailing all the diverse ways to do so. Is dealing with donated furniture your thing? Or tutoring, or donating funds, or seeing that an Afghan family member can get to work on time? Right, Clyde? So many ways that each one of us can contribute to this effort of support and truly being a friend. Let us hear now, Thanks for Being a Friend, which was produced and sung by William Miller of First Church.
A little nod to Betty White and the Golden Girls.
Thank you for being a friend, traveling down the road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend.
Thank you all for joining us to learn about our shared project of sponsoring an Afghan refugee family. We don't have to get maybe quite as close as the Golden Girls, but we can all find a way to be a friend to this family with care and compassion. All right, I think we've got just a couple of announcements to share with you before we go to breakout groups. I'll share two brief ones from First Unitarian. If you haven't already gotten the word, we're trying to make sure everyone knows that I or any other staff member or lay leader of the church will not be hitting you up for gift cards or any other kind of support for those in need. We do that in many other ways, but I won't be texting or emailing you. So if you've seen one of those scam emails or texts, or you get one in the future, delete is your friend. You can also report them. We've had more information out in our communications about that. And folks at 2U, watch out
yes.
for that too, if it hasn't hit you already.
Yes, it has. So thank you.
Yeah.
That goes for you also.
Yes. Last one for First U. We have our Preserve Our Building fund drive of the year has been going on recently, and that's coming to a close this month. Many thanks from our fund drive chairs, Jamie Alexander and Diane Witham, to those who have donated. We are actually below our usual level of donations for this year. And if you've been paying attention, you know we've actually had a number of repairs and things we've needed to do in our building. So the need is no less now than in years past, and we welcome additional gifts to the Preserve Our Building Fund. What about for 2U, Mary?
Okay, we have one announcement this morning from Dorothy Danielson, who is the president of our board. Dorothy's words: Your Board of Trustees has set a possible date for reopening the church building to in-person as well as Zoom worship services, as well as committee and small group meetings, small events, and religious education activities. We want to have the church physically and technologically prepared for our committed volunteers to tackle this next COVID challenge. Our suggested date is Sunday, April 3rd, with vigilant monitoring of COVID spread and a final decision for reopening the building to be announced on or about March 23rd. If COVID cases continue to decline and the board and safety team task force agree, there will be an all-church bulletin sent out around March 23rd, which will confirm the opening date for in-person as well as Zoom worship on April 3rd. The letter will list all the safety protocols which will need to be followed to attend in-person worship. That is masks, social distancing, etc. That's the end of Dorothy's announcement. So in other words, it will be at least until April 3rd, until Second Unitarian will have hybrid services with folks attending both online and in person.
Very good. Okay, well, if you'd like to stay for a breakout group, remain on the call and you'll be placed in one shortly. We are going to have members of the Joint Refugee Project team circulating groups. Any questions? Find out like to get involved with this project. Thanks, everybody.
Can anyone hear us? I think we're signed out. Tell you what we're going to do. You get stuck like this, you're frozen in a deal. You go up to...
Turn the computer off.
Yes. Now I've lost my arrow. See, the arrow is very hard to see. Will you please keep your hands off? When I want you to put your hands on, I'll say, Sandy, now put your hands on, okay? I was just about there. All of a sudden, you